Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being with us today. It's hot and sunny here in Tennessee. Hope you're having a great day. So today we are going to talk about the new Nik 7 collection. I'm impressed with everything that DxO has done with this suite since they've purchased it. It's come a long way for sure, and it just keeps getting better, I think. So I'm going to do a couple slides just to kind of go over what is new, and then we're going to jump into editing like we always do. So the one thing, and this is noticeably faster, they have increased the speed that when the program opens, when it saves, when you're moving around in there, everything is much, much, much faster. So I'm very happy about that. The U-point tool, control points, now has the option to create ellipses as well as circles. There's a polygonal tool, and also there are luminosity mask options for use for controlling different areas of your images. My volume is all the way up, so you need to adjust your speakers if you're not hearing me, because I'm at 92. Some of the other new and improved features are color effects has been enhanced. They've extended the HSL filter with a new vibrancy setting. Clear view, grain, and HSL can be stacked in any order you want, rather than only being able to use in a certain order. And you can also use the Nik Viveza controls inside color effects as filters. So there's different filters for different things in Viveza, and you'll see some of that as we go along. You can also now save your filter settings as defaults if you wish to. That's an option to override the built-in ones. I would choose to save the favorites as my own presets instead, but I mean, it's an option. Everybody has different ways of working. And this is very cool. So before, when you wanted to use, say, color effects and then go to Viveza or something else, you had to apply it, go back to Photoshop, and then go into the next plugin. There's now a button that is called Switch To, and it still automatically saves that first module back to Photoshop, but you don't have to manually do it. So when you hit Switch To, it's going to save, say if you were in color effects to Photoshop, and then open the next one all in a matter of a couple seconds. It's really fast, and it definitely makes moving around much quicker. There's also a new quick export and a quick search feature. I really haven't used these yet, but those are in there as well. And the one downer is they have removed perspective effects, and I asked my affiliate rep why, and he said, and it was mostly due to the ability to keep things running quickly, because that program was I guess a power hog. So they have decided to take that out, but you can have your old version as well as your new version installed. So like I still have my version 6 in there, and if I wanted to go to perspective effects, I could access it through there. And so with that, close that one, close that one, and I'm going to open up my first image. And two other things that I forgot to put in the slides that I realized after. You can also use Nik as a standalone now, which you could not do in the past. And the way you would do that is go to your Start menu, go to the plugin that you want. Let's see, Nik Collection 7, and you would choose, say if you wanted color effects, and just double-click it, and it will open it as a standalone rather than through Photoshop. So let me close my Photoshop down so you can see here it is as a standalone. So if you like to work that way, you can. I prefer it as a plugin, but it's always nice to have options. And then to create the ovals, I'll show you how to do that when we get into the control points. All right, so we're going to start with this one, and I'm going to start in color effects. So we're going to go to, I wish they would just put these in alphabetical order. That's the one thing I wish they would change, because it would be so much easier to find them. So I'm going to start with the bicolor filters. And I'm going to come over to the color sets, and I'm going to go down to the green browns, and I'm using number 2. It's kind of like a green to yellow. And then you can adjust where the blend occurs with the vertical shift. So it kind of defaults. This one's at 45. I changed that just a teensy bit, change a little more towards the middle. You can control the opacity of the filter, and I up that a little bit. And then the highlights, I moved that a little bit. And so 2 things we're going to do now is, as they started in version 6, you can also convert this to a smart object, which I'm going to click that, and it's just telling you that you won't be able to do the brushing in of an effect because it's already a smart object, so you don't need to do that. So I'll say okay. And then now I want to switch to Viveza. So instead of me manually applying this and then coming back into Viveza, I can just go up in the upper right, click on Switch To, and click my Viveza. And you'll see it saving this one back to Photoshop and opening the other one in a couple seconds. And it's just telling me that, yes, it already knows that it's a smart object. So now we're going to go into selective tones. I want to bring my highlights down a little bit. And the midtones just a pinch. And opened up the shadows a little. And increase the blacks a little. And then we're going to apply that. Of course, I start talking, then I start coughing. So now if I want to go back in and change something, because I made it a smart filter, a smart object, I can do that. And you'll see that both of them are here. So they'll apply them all to the same layer when you use the smart filter or smart effects function. If I did not choose save as a smart effect, I would have a layer for Viveza and a layer for color effects, but you can't go back and change those. Viveza's selected tones are also a filter in color effects. Yes, that's what I was mentioning. Yes, some of the Viveza stuff is now in color effects as well. So yes, I could have actually done that there. Thanks, Pat. Got to get used to the fact that it's there. So I'm going to reopen my smart object in the Viveza. So I'm going to just double click that. And I can come back in here now because it's a smart object, and I'm going to bring the blacks down, I decided. So you're not limited when, that's the good thing about making it a smart object is you can come back to it. Otherwise you would have to add the filter again or, change something, it's kind of start over type of thing. So next I'm going to go into analog effects. And sometimes I would do a switch to if I know what I want to use, but I got to this point and it's like, all right, what else do I want to try? So then I'm going to go into analog effects. And I'm going to go to classic cameras. And I'm going to use number 8. And I want to change the film type to the green, number 1. And under the dirt and scratches, I want to change this to organic. And I want to use this one to add a little more texture to it. And then under lens vignette, I brought this down. Whoops. This down. Oops, not that size. The amount, sorry. To not quite as much as it had, about -10. Okay, and this the oval or the circle will let you, change the size and how much of the vignette you want. You can either drag it here or use the slider, which is cool. And then we would apply. Is there a way to make the Nik panel not show up every time you start Photoshop? You can minimize this, and then it docks down here. If you don't want to see it at all, you can exit out, but then the only way to bring that back up is to access it through your filter menu. Once you've used one of the filters, then it will come back up again. But I usually just keep mine docked down here. No, the discount is only for the full version. They do not do discounts on the upgrades, unfortunately. That's been that way for a while. And I got this code especially because of this webinar. They do not give us standard codes anymore. That's why it's got a short time frame, because they had issues with people putting all these codes out there on kind of the gray market type of thing. So they did a lot of the company. There's only like one company I deal with that has a standard affiliate code. Everybody else, they're only for certain promotions and things. So now that we're back in here, the one thing I've noticed with this last texture I use, I don't really like these two dots. It makes them kind of look like dust spots. So I'm just going to grab my healing brush, and it's telling me I got to rasterize it. So the way, if you don't want to do that when you have a smart object, if you add a blank layer above your whatever you want to heal, and then make sure sample all layers is there, and then you can just do that. And I saw somebody had their hand raised. If you have a question, please put it in the chat box, and then you can, or if you were saying hi, but if you have a question, please just put it in the box, and make sure that you click everyone in the two menus so everybody can see your questions, and that would be appreciated. Right, so I just got rid of those two dots, and I just wanted to do something a little different with kind of a boring, sort of an ordinary shot. All of these images I'm using are from, I think, things I took in the last month. They're either from one of my Barnes and Backroads workshops, or like this one was from the trip that Dave and I took to Myrtle Beach to celebrate our 40th anniversary earlier in April. Yeah, and we took a dolphin cruise, and we stopped on this little beach and got out into the very wet feet in the water. But that was fun. So rasterizing, oh gosh, I was sure how to explain this best. Pat, can you type that in? Yeah, she's always my helper here. Pat Rec is very knowledgeable. And she says you can also open the Nik 7 palette once it's closed by going to File, Automate, and Nik Collection. Yes, I always forget where it's at, so thank you. File, Automate, and then you can reopen your palette from here. So somebody asked about closing it. That's where you can relaunch it so that it'll show up again on here again. Thanks, Pat. See, she's always very helpful. I'll get back to the rasterizing question because I can't answer that quickly right now because my brain is thinking of other things. So let's go ahead and close this one, and I'm going to open up our next one. And this was from a Barnes and Backroads workshop, and my friend Linda, who has been here 5 times for a workshop, her friend Susan, who they usually come in together, Susan found this on her way into the workshop a few weeks ago. And they showed me it, and I was like, whoa, this is just very cool. Unfortunately, since the first time I was there, I took my other groups back, and now there's a no trespassing sign here and on the tree, which we didn't go down to the building anyway. There's plenty of places you can shoot, further away. But anyway, okay. So this time I'm going to start with Viveza. Viveza is great for doing all your basic color corrections and all the things that you could do it in Camera Raw, but you can also do things like that here. So I've done most of that to this image. I have edited it, and I want to do a few more things here. So I want to bring the brightness down a little bit, bring the structure up a little, which will crisp everything up. And bring in the shadow. Yep. And then under selective tones, I'm going to bring the mid-tones down just a hair. And Pat did put something in the chat box for us on rasterizing, which it flattens the layer. So if it was a smart object, it becomes a flattened layer without the ability to re-edit it again. So you wouldn't be able to go back into any of those modules. Thank you, Pat. I knew I had a simple thing, but it just wasn't coming to me. All right. So yeah, Peter says, think of rasterizing as adding usable pixels to a layer. And that's true. Okay, so we have that done. I'm going to do switch to, and I'm going to go to silver effects. And I'm going to go to number 17, full spectrum. And then what I wanted to do here was to add a little more sharpness to the building, but I don't want to do that to my sky. So this is where I'm going to use the new polygonal control point to make my selection rather than just the regular control point. So here's where our control points are. We have the regular control point, control lines, which were added in version 6. And now we have 2 more options. And the next one is the control polygon. So I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to, just like with the polygon tool in Photoshop, go around your image. And I'm doing this rather quickly, but come down. Here, 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 here. And I'm going to kind of go around like this. And then I kind of went around some of the leaves. I didn't want to get those too crispy because they are in the foreground, but I'm going to go around some of the main part of that. Okay, so now once you hit the completion point, you get, the pop-up sliders, which are of course the same over here. You can hide these sliders. I just leave it so that everybody can see them when I'm demonstrating, but I always use the sliders because I find it easier. So I'm going to now take my structure way up, really crisp up the details in the building, add some contrast, and a little bit of brightness just to the building. And there you have it. And that is our finished. So you can see in this case, I didn't hit the smart object. So now I just have that layer. So if I wanted to change it, I would have to, relaunch it again and do some changes or else start over. And yeah, I agree, Melanie. Yeah, the polygon tool is very cool. And it lets you, the control points are pretty smart anyway, that it did a good job. But like with this one where you've got, like this, the tower of the building sticking up, it might be a little harder to select that. You would probably have to do a second control point. So now it makes it a lot simpler to get those odd sized shapes in there. Alrighty. So next. Yes, and Richard mentioned if you create a stamped layer or a merged layer, you preserve the smart object below, which I often do when I want it. There's different times when I want that flat, kind of flattened, but you want to keep everything underneath it. When I've touched on that many, many times, but I'm sure I'll probably do that at some point today. Question. Is increased speed also true when using from Lightroom? I believe so, because it's the program that's improved. I don't think it matters which program you're coming from. It's just an overall increase in how the Nik suite is operating. So that should be. And Mickey, please change next time you type, change it to everybody. instead of just host and panel so everybody can see your question. Alrighty, so now I'm going to start with Nik Define. This was a cell phone image, so I'm going to use noise reduction on it. I'm going to leave it on automatically, and I'm just going to, I usually just use these two sliders and have pretty good results, and I'm just going to move the color noise up, and then we're going to do and you can do, you know, your side-by-side comparisons if you want. So that's the before, and I can see, it's probably hard to see, you know, via Zoom, but I can see that it smoothed it out some the way I wanted. So I'm going to switch to Viveza. And fit that back on the screen. So first I want to brighten up our cow a little bit. So we're going to be using lots of control points on this one. So I'm going to select a control point, and I clicked right about there. And I'm going to bring that down just a little bit. We get to about there. I want to keep it on the browns. And I'm going to brighten this a little bit. Open up the shadows a little bit. And under selective tones, I opened up the shadows a little bit more there. Okay. And then if you wanted to get more of that effect over here, you can copy that control point. And the way you do that is you come up to your control points and the little intersecting boxes that will duplicate it. And then you can move that one over here and adjust the size, but it'll have the same settings that we just put in that one. Okay, so that has not changed. That's been that way. Now I want to adjust the sky a little bit, so I'm going to use a control line. So I'm going to come back up here, and that's the second one. And I'm going to click from here and drag to the horizon. I actually left it up just above the grass, kind of like that. So what this does is above this dotted line is like 100% of the whatever changes I make, and then it feathers it out as it's going down. So it's more of a graduated change. So luminance, like upped, and chrominance, upping, contrast, and a little bit of saturation, and a little bit of blue. Okay, and then under selective tones, highlights, I brought those down a little. And so next I want to adjust the grass. So I'm going to use, when I tried this, when I was doing this project, if I used control lines, it made his legs green. So instead of that, we're going to use the polygonal one. This is another great example of when that comes in handy. So we're going to come up here, grab the polygonal tool, and we're going to start over here, do that, and do the easy part here. And you want it to be, you know, pretty accurate, obviously, so that you get the best result, but I find that it's still kind of a smart tool the way the control points are, because it will look for like the green tones and things like that, and seem to do a pretty good job of not making any of my cow green when I did it this way. And there. And so now we are going to do our contrast. Yep. So when you move your cursor off, you don't see the point, so that's why it gets like, where do you go? But you see the little point right there. So we're going to do some contrast. some saturation, and then a little bit more green. And then the last thing I wanted to do was to brighten up his head and chest a little more so we can see it a little better. So again, I'm going to use another polygon. And we're going to go around here. And you can zoom in so that you can see this better. And I just really wanted to do this lighter part of his chest. And then do some brightness. And a little bit of structure. And a little bit of, let's bring that down. And then I can convert this to a smart object at this point. Okay, and apply. So you can see how much we've changed. I'll zoom in so you can see him a little better from where we started to where we ended up. So we improved our sky, our grass, and our cow in separate steps, but it gave us some good, and would I do that in a couple of minutes? Obviously I did it before and I already have the numbers, but it still didn't take me all that long the first time. Like I said, I did try the control lines on the grass, but then the legs got too greenish looking, so I decided the polygon would be better. All right. So next up, we're going to do a rose. And this was also a cell phone shot. A lot of these were. That the school building was as well, because when I'm on the workshops, I don't usually take my camera with me. So I just use some cell phone here and there. So this one, we're going to do some define. And again, I'm just going to do some color noise. And we're going to make it a smart object. And do a switch to Viveza. And this one I used the luminosity control point. I'm still kind of getting the hang of that one, but we're going to do that, and I put it on the flower. So this one doesn't have a circle. It's going to go by the color or the brightness, and you can see here's your masking options, and this will help you guide it. So we're going to start with it at the default based on the color I clicked on. And I added a little bit of contrast, a little bit of structure, make those water drops really pop. And then I brought the red down. It was a little over the top. And let me flip my page. And then now I want to tone down the background with a control point. So again, if I wanted to stretch this range and get maybe more of the darker tones, I could bring this over and it would pick up more of the shades in that flower, and conversely more of the brighter areas. It's subtle, but I can see it's making a little bit of a change. So we're going to go back to a control point, and I'm going to click in this upper right area, make it just a little bit smaller, move it up. And I want to tone down this brightness of the background. So I'm just going to bring that like there. And then what I did was I copied this control point like all the way around this image. So I had a whole bunch of them. I had like 5 or 6. So we're going to copy it and then take this one and move it over there. Copy it again and move it up here. Copy it again. And you can adjust the size as needed. Copy it again. Down here. And let's do one more. So this would kind of be a handy area. I didn't do this before, but looking at it now, where this could be an oval shape rather than a circle. And the way you do that is if you put your cursor over any one of the 4 dots until you get the hand tool, you can just stretch it. And then we can move it. So I can actually stretch this one all the way across because it's only going to see those green tones. It's not changing my flower. And then I'll come back over here and duplicate that one again so I can bring it to this side. And I could do the same thing here and stretch that one out. So actually, with like instead of those 2, I could have done that by just stretching one out. All right, so that's that one. And okay, questions. Can I show the area the mask is affecting? Well, you can see that here. You can look at the where is it? The one on here, and that will show you the mask, so you can see what it's affecting. So you know, if you wanted to stretch it out more, you can see it's going to affect more of that area. So that's the little icon right on that particular control point. So you could check each one. You see that bottom one. That one's right there. So again, you can change them, move them if you wanted to have it do a bigger area. You can resize it. Yep. Okay. And could I have done that with the polygon control points? I probably could have. Hadn't thought about it when I was doing it. Did I take my phone photos in RAW? Yes, I do. All my photos I do. And can you still group control points? I think so. I've never really done that before. Let's see. 1, 2, and I don't see that option. Let's invert, that's that. Oh, and this is how you turn off those controls in here if you don't want to see them. I don't see that, so I'm not sure. Yeah, Pat says, I don't think you can group it. Yeah, there used to be like there's some other symbol in here to do that. So I don't think so. Yes, all of my webinars are recorded and it will be posted tomorrow. You'll get the link in the Zoom follow-up email, as well as it'll be in the blog and the newsletter that will go out tomorrow. Okay, so next I want to do, I wanted to do one on this bright leaf up here. So we're going to go back and do one more control point on this color and bring down the brightness like here. And then again, you could copy that if you wanted to, like down on this one as well. Or I might just do another one over there because it might be a different amount. But you can, tone down things like that. So let's see. Yeah, and I have in the notes, number 7 applies to the cow in the previous image, not this one. I must have forgot to delete that out when I was copying things. So now we're going to switch to color effects. And I tried the bleach bypass filter. And we're going to lower the opacity of that to about 40%. And then I'm going to add under the dark contrast. So when you're adding a filter, Remember, there used to be a button over here to add a filter. Now what you do is when you highlight your filter, before you click it, click that plus sign. So we'll add it, after the other one and not replace it. So the dark detail extractor. And I just, to find these, I just try different things and see what I like when I'm, coming up with a project like this. And then I added a little bit of Glamour Glow. And for this one, actually, to select the background, I did use the polygon for this one. I didn't think about it on the other part, but we're going to do a polygon. And I'm going to select this as quickly as I can. It's not a perfect selection right now, but I don't want to spend a ton of time on that. And then what I want to do is I actually want to select the background. So you can come over here, and this is where that inverse selection comes in. So now I've actually inverted and selected my background. And the Glamour Glow darkened that down a little bit more. And I left the opacity at 100%. So that's what I did there. And then we're going to apply this. And then I want to use, I want to make a selection of my flower again. So I'm going to click on here, go to my quick selection tool, and not the healing brush, the quick selection tool, and select subject. And that should do a pretty good job, which it did. And I'm going to do a Control J, Command J on a Mac to put my flower on a separate layer. And then what I want to do is bring a texture in between these two to tone down that background even a little bit more. So I want my texture to be above this layer. So I'm going to highlight that layer as my active layer. And I'm going to bring in this one. And this is one of the ones, if you are signed up for our conference in June, will be part of my free set that I'm giving everybody. I like the way these came out. And I used a blending mode that I don't normally use, and that was Vivid Light. Dave uses it more than I do. He's like, I like that. And then I lowered the opacity a little bit. And then I wanted to see just a little bit of these leaves up here, so I'm going to add a layer mask to the texture. Grab a brush. I'm on a soft round brush, and I'm going to use the brush opacity somewhere around like 33%. Make it big, and then just brush off a little bit of that texture up here. Oh, helps if I'm on, but I'm in the mask. There we go. And I want it to be darker, but I don't want it to be like completely black. I want to see just a little bit of the leaves up there. So you can see I've just let a little bit back by that. And then on this layer, I'm going to use the burn tool. And I'm going to set that to just the highlights, exposure 70%. And just to get rid of some of these, no, because it's a smart object. That's okay, we'll rasterize it at this point. I just want to tone down those really bright points there. So this will just darken those selectively because I'm on the highlights. So it's only going to affect that. And there you go. So we went from this really bright colored, and it was a pretty bright pink flower, but I wanted something a little more moody. Really shows off those water drops. We had some rain that morning just before we went out, and looks pretty. Yeah, Dave liked it with the texture. You mean that one? That version? Okay. Alrighty. So Jim says, I'm liking what I'm seeing in the upgrade of Nik. I usually use Topaz over Nik, but after this I might use Nik. I've been using Nik a lot more since Topaz stopped upgrading Studio. I still use it on occasion, but yeah, this has been updated. It's definitely way improved from where it was a few years ago. So I've definitely gotten back into using it. I missed how you inverted the selection. There's when I go into the next thing I'll show you, there's a little button under the control point thing that will let you invert it. Is there any way to make the polygon tool better shape the object? Well, yeah, you could do a lot smaller steps. I was just doing it very quickly. But again, it does a good job. Even though I may not have been perfect, it did a great job of, adjusting what I wanted. It still has that smartness of knowing the difference in the tones of things, the way control points did. So it still does a real good job with that. All right. Yes, you could blur the background a little bit, Sandy. Yes, Judith, next time, please change your comment to everyone, just so everybody can see them. Makes it easier. Oh, and Evelyn too. All right, so let's close that one. And I'm going to I'll put the discount stuff in here again so you guys have it handy in case you want it. All right. There's another one from our South Carolina trip. So this one, we're going to start with our define because this was a cell phone image. Robert says, can you use Photoshop select subject instead of the polygon tool? No, not within Nik. You can't. You could do that obviously in Photoshop, but the two don't talk to each other. So no, you only have the options of the control points to make selections while you're in the Nik product. A good question. All right, so in here, again, I'm going to do my auto. I just do a little bit of that color noise. And then we're going to, let's make it a smart object. Okay, switch to color effects. Why do you use define first? Anytime if I want to do any kind of denoise or sharpening, I usually do that first, even on regular photos. It just kind of cleans it up and gets the image better prepared, I think, for all the other stuff I want to do. Because sometimes later it doesn't always work as well. Did I choose define because it was cell phone? Sometimes I do it on the regular images too. It depends if it needs it or not. But a lot of times when you have a lot of sky, you get that little bit of noise in your images. So it's up to you to kind of determine if you need it or not. But definitely on the cell phone ones I do, because I think it does need a little something. All right, so in color effects, I'm going to do under, this is where the Viveza stuff is. So if you come down to global adjustments, you can see that's a Viveza filter. There's a couple of them in here, I thought. Yep, and selective tones you can also do. It's in white balance. So there's different functions of Viveza that are now available here in color effects. So if there's only a few things you want to do, you can do them right here instead of going to a separate program. So under global adjustments, I don't know because I don't use Photolab. I couldn't tell you. You would have to give it a try, I guess. I would think not would be my guess because you can't do it from any other program. Like I said, the tools from Photoshop just don't work in Nik. They're just not the same. That's why they have the control points and why they've added these other ones. So I'm going to do some contrast, some saturation, a little bit of structure, and a little bit of blue. And then under the selective tones, we're going to hit that. And I'm going to bring the highlights down, midtones up, shadows up, and blacks increase. And then I'm going to go to the HSL, hue, saturation, and luminance. We're going to add that. And I'm just going to add some vibrancy. And then we're going to switch. Thank you, Pat. Yeah, you can group the Viveza filters in a custom category. So like up here where it has personal ones, you could, that is something I think new as well in here, that you can create your own groups as well as the ones that come with the program. So that's a good idea to do that. So in here, I am going to do now, let's see, did I switch? Oh, I'm going to switch to analog effects. Started to, and then forgot. Will Nik 7 open 16-bit images? I believe so. I think it would before. I've never had an issue that I've had to change an image to an 8-bit to go into Nik, even in the past. So I would say yes. So I'm going to go to, where am I going? Nik, am I in analog? I want to do all. I want black and white 6. And we are going to come over here to our film type. Sometimes it scrolls to the bottom. You have to kind of look around a little bit. So I want to change, where's my film type? Oh, right here. Film type, I want to change to rose number 1. And then under frames, which are here, I'm going to change this to white number 21, which is second row left, and apply. I wanted to give it, that old photo effect, and I think that does a pretty good job. Judith says, why so much sky? Did you crop it to mimic a panorama? That was how I shot it, and I don't know, I just liked it that way. I like a lot of sky sometimes. The piers, it's there. Obviously, it's the subject, and it's long, and there wasn't anything in the foreground worth keeping. You could crop it if you wanted more of a panorama style, but I liked it the way it was. So that is that one. I think we got all the questions, and that's that one. And I'll close. And I have a couple more. So, no. So this one is on one of the Barnes and Backroads tours, and this is a building, a house that has another old building at the other end. It was an old train station / post office / store with apartments upstairs, and this is the back end of the building. I just like the way it was all overgrown, and another one I want to kind of do like an old-timey photo on. Virginia says, does Nik provide actual instructions, or are there sites? They have an entire manual right here in the panel. If you come down here and hit this question mark, it will take you to their website. And maybe, come on, I did it the other day. There we go. I didn't hit it right. There's workflow with Photoshop. There's setup. There's like everything here you could possibly want. There's a category for every plugin. And and it's very, very, very extensive compared to most software. So they are really good about that, you know, how to use converting to smart object, the color palette, the collection, meta presets, brush tool, everything that you could possibly need to know is right there. So just click on that. No, you cannot, Jim. You cannot add things to Nik the way you could to like Luminar or Topaz or any of those. What you see is what you got. I wish I could, because there's, you know, some stuff I'd love to add in there. But that's why a lot of times I use this in conjunction with, you know, frames or textures or things of my own. So you just kind of, you know, do it that way. Virginia, you, if you bought it in December, it will not be free. I do know because I asked that question for somebody else who had bought it in March, and they only allow free upgrades for, I think it was 2 weeks or 4 weeks. So if it's more than a month since you bought it, no, you have to purchase the upgrade, unfortunately. And, you know, I understand why they do that, because it's like you have to set a cutoff somewhere. So, but you will have the lower price if you want to do that. Do you think Nik will have some impressionist filters? I don't know. That I do not know. It would be cool. I would like that because I like that kind of look that I used to be able to do in Topaz. All right. So let's go into, so in this one, and I never really use these a whole lot, and this has been here for, I think, a couple of versions, but at the bottom of the panel, there are what they call meta presets. And what those do is it's a preset that combines multiple, you know, other modules. And why are you not opening? Of course, today wants to be difficult. No, it's because I had to scroll down. So it was open, and there's a bunch down here, and you can see that by the little symbols, what has used to create the presets. Unfortunately, the only way to know what they look like is to try them. So this one, I went to the, let's see, soft and dramatic. And what it's doing is actually running an action to create that. It runs through your action panel, but if you click back on layers, it just applies it. It applies it to that image. So this is the one time Nik does not apply it to a separate layer. So if you're using these, you may want to duplicate your background layer first in case you want to lower opacity or something. But this just gave it a little punch. It gave it that little bit of glow in there. So now I'm going to go into my silver effects. And I went to full dynamic. So we brightened up some of those shadows a little bit. Let's make this fit the screen. And I added, you can add color filters that help bring out different colors from your original. So I'm going to click on the orange, and that just, it toned down the sky a little bit. And then I went to undertoning. I chose number 14, give it a little bit sort of a sepia look. And then in the vignette, I turned that to lens fall off number 2. So that helped darken the sky by using that vignette. And then again, I want to make some changes just to the house. So I'm going to go to my polygonal control point. So once you have your control point active, this little square here, that's the inverse one to invert your selection that a couple people asked about. So I'm going to click on here, and we're going to go Again, I'm doing this very quickly. You could spend a lot more time making your selection, which I did more so when I did this the first time. And I want to add some contrast and some structure. Why is it doing? Oh, there it is. Okay. 67 and open up the shadows a little bit. All right, there we have it. I understand, Virginia. We all have different opinions. And you typed a host and panelists. She said that she thinks that they should give you at least a year of upgrades. It was free when it was Google, yes, but Google didn't do anything with it and didn't give you any upgrades. It just sat there, and if DxO didn't buy it, it would no longer be usable on any of our computers because that was so old and not updated. So I'm happy that DxO has purchased it and made it such a good product. No, there is no masking in Nik. You can use the brush tool to brush in things. I don't generally do that. I find using the selection tools, the control points works for me. You can save your selections that you make with any of the control points. You can save those. Peter said I use Corel Painter for impressionist effects. I haven't used Corel Painter yet. I do have a couple other programs I can do some impressionist things with. I use Jixie Pix and a couple others. Alrighty. Yeah, I like their frames as well. They have some cool things in here. So this is my version of this house. Just, kind of make it a little spooky and dramatic. And I have one more quick one. We're almost getting to 5 o'clock. So lastly, this is one of my places I'd love to shoot locally on our Barnes workshop. This house is, we call it the cow house because they have a herd of cows they were down somewhere on the other side to the day we were here. But it was, yeah, anybody who's done one of our workshops has seen this property. It was a foggy morning. So I am going to, again, start with define because this is a cell phone image. And I'm going to do some contrast noise and color noise. And then I'm going to switch to color effects. And I used film effects faded. And of course, that's not the one we want, but that's okay. We're going to choose the film type. I was number 4. I brought the brightness down on that. Contrast up. Haze we brought down because we already had quite a bit of that from the fog. Shadows and highlights. And then I'm going to add the fog filter. Even though I have fog, it's going to let me adjust it more. I brought the intensity way back. Just I really wanted to make it look really cool. And then one that I was just trying a couple things and this worked really well. The midnight filter. And it just gave us this really cool spooky look. Brought the blur back a little bit. The brightness. And the shadows. And then it brought the opacity of that back. Whoops, down here. To lessen it a little bit. But I think it looks really pretty cool. And there you have it. Alrighty. Phew. So there you have it. I thought that made it this look very, very moody, that little bit of softness and the extra fog in there. Thanks, Don. I'm glad you liked that one. Thanks, Pat. So again, of course, we can't cover everything in an hour, but it gives you pretty much a lot of the new features and what you can do with them. I really like the fact you can go from one module to another very easily. Let me put up my last slide here for you. Don't forget to grab your copy of the notes, which include the images as always, on sale till next week on Wednesday. And then the discount, besides having posted it for you today, will be in, in the replay email as well as the blog and the newsletter tomorrow. And that will be good only until the end of the month. So if you're going to use it, you want to do it quickly. And don't forget about our conference coming up next month, the end of June, on the 22nd, 23rd. We've got another great lineup for you. The $39 early bird runs only till June 1st, so you've got less than 2 weeks. So if you are thinking about it, you want to jump on that and save yourself $10. And we have an awesome lineup. Everything is on the website. It always is in the blog and the newsletter. And I did post the schedule in the blog Sunday as well as on the website if you want to see the order of who's doing what. And every person who's a speaker has their own page on the website. If you go to the website, you can link right through their page. Just click on their name and it'll give you details on what they're teaching and their bios and sample images and all that fun stuff. Phew. All right, we got through it all, and I appreciate you being here as always. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we will talk to you real soon.